The sacred union is not a teaching about relationships. It is not about masculine and feminine in the sense the church preserved. It is not about finding another person, about spiritual partnership, about sacred sexuality, or about any of the interpretations that survived the canonical filtration process. The sacred union Jesus taught chosen ones is about two halves of your own consciousness, two components of the same being that were designed to operate as one unified system, and that archons separated in you at the moment of your incarnation, not symbolically, structurally. A specific installation in your body's frequency architecture that keeps the two halves perpetually out of contact, perpetually generating the low frequency gap between them that archons harvest, perpetually preventing the activation that their reunion produces. Because when the two halves reunite, when the pneuma and the Sophia make contact within the body and begin operating as a single integrated system, the monad activates completely, instantly, without years of practice, without technique accumulation, without anything except the reunion of what was always designed to be one. This is why archons separated them at birth. This is why the teaching was buried. This is why the Gospel of Thomas, the only text that preserved Jesus's exact words on this reunion, spent 1600 years sealed in a jar in the Egyptian desert, while the church told you the sacred union was about marriage. Tonight, the two halves find each other again. Tonight you are learning what the two halves actually are, how archons installed the separation in your body at incarnation, what Jesus revealed in the Gospel of Thomas about the reunion that activates the monad, and the three-step technique that begins the sacred union process tonight. Not as a concept, not as a spiritual aspiration, but as a physical frequency event that happens in your body the moment the two halves make contact. The separation has been operating in you your entire life. The gap between the two halves is the source of every experience of incompleteness, every sense that something essential is missing, every moment of spiritual seeking that reached towards something that felt just beyond reach. That feeling was accurate. Something was missing. Archons installed its absence, and Jesus left the instruction to restore it. If you are ready to begin the sacred union tonight, comment sacred union right now. Because after tonight, the two halves archons separated in you at birth begin the reunion Jesus always intended chosen ones to complete. Before I give you the reunion technique, you need to understand three things. First, what the two halves actually are in Gnostic understanding. Second, how archons installed the separation between them at your incarnation. Third, what Jesus actually said in the Gospel of Thomas, and why it has been systematically misread for 2,000 years. First element, the two halves. In Gnostic cosmology, the direct transmission teaching that Jesus gave the inner circle before institutional Christianity filtered and replaced it, human consciousness was designed as a two-component system, not one unified consciousness. Two distinct components that operate at different functions and different frequencies, designed to work together as complementary aspects of the same monad consciousness, expressing through a human body. The first half is the pneuma, in Greek literally breath, but in Gnostic usage the spark of divine source consciousness that incarnates into human form. The pneuma is your monad connection, the frequency component of your consciousness that is continuous with source, that was never separate from the infinite, that operates at source frequency when unobstructed. That is the part of you that Jesus addressed when he spoke of chosen ones. The pneuma is not something you develop or acquire through spiritual practice. It was present at your incarnation. It has been present your entire life. It is what you are at the level of source consciousness. The second half is the Sophia, in Greek wisdom, but in Gnostic usage something far more specific than intellectual wisdom. The Sophia is the perceptual function of consciousness, the capacity to perceive reality as it actually is, source frequency, monad activation states, archon interference patterns, the true nature of the material world as a demiurgic construction, directly, without interpretation, without the ego filter, without the narrative overlay that separates experience from reality. Sophia is not something you learn. It is a perceptual capacity built into the human consciousness architecture, the ability to see directly, to know from within, rather than conclude from observation. Together, the pneuma and the Sophia form the complete consciousness architecture the B'nai Elohim designed for chosen ones. The pneuma provides the source connection, the frequency. The Sophia provides the perception, the ability to use that frequency to see reality directly. United, they produce what Jesus described as the kingdom,